The Gaming Commission has made a point of acknowledging that its decision to award Wynn Resorts the coveted Boston area casino license comes with collateral damage. Suffolk Downs was banking on that license, and now New England's only thoroughbred racecourse is preparing to close after nearly 80 years. That means some 1,100 track employees will be out of a job in December. The Gaming Commission released a statement today, reading in part, saying its members are dedicated to assisting racing employees through workforce development and by identifying additional employment solutions. But Suffolk Downs COO Chip Tuttle says that's too little, too late. He released a statement saying the Commission's actions made clear how little value they place on these jobs and these people. While the outlook for Suffolk Downs is grim, my next guests say there could be a silver lining. Former Transportation Secretary Jim Aloisi leads a group of urban planners and community leaders going by the name East Boston 2020. Brian Gregory is an architect and a member of that coalition. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Emily.
I have to say, I was a little surprised at Chip Tuttle's woe is me, down in the mouth. I mean, he knew this was one option or the other. And as your group is looking, there's got to be other things to do. This is a huge tract of land. The New England Revolution, the Olympics. I mean,
well, or other development. I
Yeah.
mean, I think I was happy to get together with this group of folks in East Boston to think in a positive way about what the future of that site can be. Everyone is sad about jobs leaving, but you know, jobs are leaving in many industries. Journalism is one. We know the music industry is another. Times are changing. And what we've tried to do is to put a positive spin on what we can do, what can be done on a site that's over 100 acres, 2 minutes away from Logan Airport, 2 MBTA stations already there. It's a perfect site for the kind of development that should look forward into the 21st century. And East Boston is a place, I think, that is in resurgence, that is embracing of thinking outside the box. And people don't want to see the same kind of uses there that's simply attracting more automobiles, more parking. They want to see creative use of that space. And so we came up with 5 development principles that we hope people will respect, listen to, and engage the community with.
what are some of those, Brian?
Sure. Job creation. Obviously, we want to have jobs to replace the jobs that left. Not only that, but we'd like to see more jobs.
Like, in what industry, though?
Well, there's a number of ones. I mean, there's examples of things like the New Balance Health and Wellness District. There's other examples such as Assembly Square, where you have tracts of land from a post-industrial city that have been completely revitalized and with less amenities going for them. There's 2 rapid transit stations on each end of the site, so it's amazing potential to be a live-work sort of scenario amongst many other different ideas.
Okay, help us out here for the people who, I don't really understand how this works. Who controls the destiny of this parcel? I mean, clearly it was for sale. They were ready to turn it over to Mohegan Sun.
Sure.
So who gets to decide?
Well, there's not one person or one entity. So obviously whoever owns the parcel, there's some question about the ownership.
Well, who does own it?
Well, I guess it's Sterling Suffolk, and there must be trusts. So whoever owns it has something clearly to say about it. The city has a lot to say about it because the city approves development, issues permits and approvals. The community has a lot to say about it because there's an environmental process. The state MEPA process will have a lot to say about it. So there's a multifaceted approach to approving any kind of large-scale development. What we're saying is, what we want people to start thinking about is developing that site in a way that's going to create good 21st century jobs that will be transit-oriented. Well, the one thing East Boston is kind of tired of is being the place that people drive through. And this, because as we've pointed out, we have already got the public, we taxpayers have already invested in 2 Blue Line stations on the site. Let's get a return for that investment. And one way to get that return is to have good transit-oriented development.
Okay, so Brian, how do you strike a match, light a fire under this? I had Joe Curtatone, mayor of Somerville, on last night. I got a ton of email off of him because he was so, violently against casinos and made the argument that the people of Revere are lucky. They're the real winners because it's not going there. And same thing for this parcel of land. You should be grateful it's not going there. But how do you create that kind of enthusiasm for something new?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the sort of connection to the transit. I think it has to do a lot also with Boston's housing crisis a little ways. there's a real shortage of housing across the city, and you have this potential, a piece of real estate the size of the North End in square footage, really, to give it some perspective, with all these amenities going for it, connections to the airport. So you have this real opportunity, instead of a sort of one-off development scenario, to knit the communities of Revere and East Boston together with a sort of development that acts as a new commercial center and sort of a new nexus.
And rather than have one employer, like some casino operator, you've got hundreds or thousands.
Exactly. And I think you can only imagine how many employers in the tech industry and the healthcare industry and other industries would love to be 2 minutes by car away from Logan, would love to have access to the T already on site, would love to have the diversity of East Boston. We have Belle Isle Marsh, one of the great salt marshes on the East Coast, right next door to this site. So there's a lot there that people can leverage in a very positive way. The whole point of our message is to say East Boston didn't just say no to a casino. Yes, they did, and they did very clearly. But they're saying yes to a very positive approach to development. People want to be engaged. People want to be engaged in a very positive way, and they will be engaged. The days of, frankly, condescending to East Boston or just assuming that East Boston will accept anything are over.
Okay, but you got this retro attitude from Chip Tuttle and others, as they said, all they do is, you're unfair, you cheated us, 1,100 people are going to be, instead of taking a forward approach.
I think you really want to be positive about it instead. I think, this represents a real opportunity in the city, and there's this ability to reinvent a whole neighborhood in the same way that you've had at Assembly Square or at the Seaport. This is sort of a different feel, but it has its own amenities and own sort of restrictions. But when do you get a 21st century city as dense as Boston is, with a chunk of land, 160 acres, carte blanche, just to do with what you'd like?
Sounds good to me. Jim Aloisi, Brian Gregory, thanks so much for coming.